Go. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. And welcome to the latest in the Indian Experiences webinar, which is going to be a spotlight on the destination of Gujarat. Now, before we start, just a couple of things. This is a post-recorded webinar, so it's a re-recording of the original. It will last for around about 40 minutes. Because we can't do a question and answer at the end, because it's a post-recording, if you do have any questions, then please do email and we'll be more than happy to respond to them via email when you send them through. So before we start on this, and I'm going to be joined shortly by Aditya Roy from Sora Excursions, I wanted to debunk a few myths about Gujarat. I've recently come back from there. I was there just pre the COVID lockdown and have sort of first-hand experience of various things. And when I came back and said to people, Gujarat is extraordinary, there are two or three things that people say immediately. And the first one is, yes, well, clients don't want to go there because they can't have a drink. Now, this isn't strictly true. There are places in Gujarat where travellers can go and purchase alcohol. So they can go and purchase alcohol, they get a special permit, and then they can take alcohol into the hotels. Depending on the hotel, most of them do then allow for alcohol to be drunk in the restaurants, so people can have a drink with dinner. So by and large, that can happen. The other one is that Gujarat is a vegetarian state. There is no doubt that it's a fantastic destination for vegetarian travellers, but also it is a state where meat is served, so it's not purely a vegetarian state. Gujarat is not an adventure destination. Well, throughout the process of this webinar, we're going to debunk that myth completely, whether it's horse riding, jeep safaris, wildlife, you name it. It's really up and coming now. It's a fantastic adventure destination. Gujarat is not a good wildlife destination. Well, I have just come back. I did 4 safaris. I saw a hyena, I saw lion on a kill, I saw leopard, I saw jungle cat, I saw desert fox, I saw black buck, literally in 4 safaris. I appreciate that I was really lucky, but I would say, people really do need to look beyond the Asiatic lion when considering Gujarat for a wildlife destination, because quite frankly, I was blown away by it. And also that Gujarat is not disability friendly. Admit that, generally speaking, India is and does struggle with having brilliant access to a lot of its monuments and also hotels. We are going to be doing a webinar in the series about disability-friendly travel throughout India, but quite a few of the hotels now are aware of this and are aware that they need to be more proactive in this regard, and they are really making efforts. So that's something that's really lovely to see in this state. Now, moving on to Gujarat as a destination, where does it lie? It lies in the northern region of India to the west of Rajasthan, which is predominantly, I think, its nemesis. Gujarat has been largely ignored, particularly by inbound tourism over the years, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody. Okay, and I think that part is partly to do with the perceived lack of booze, but also, as with all things when it comes to India, it's the lack of knowledge about the destination. Okay, because it really is an extraordinary destination, as I've recently discovered. Excuse me. I have only visited Gujarat twice in my 20 years, which is why I say that I am equally guilty of this. But then recently, or a couple of years ago, shall we say, I saw a post on social media which involved desert, jeeps, off-roading, horses. And for anyone who knows anything about me, you certainly know that that would pique my interest. I started making inquiries, found out that all this was happening in Gujarat, and had made plans to go and explore. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks later, and just before I could travel, I managed to break both my legs, and so was housebound. But I've been introduced to Aditya, who's going to be talking to you in a short while. and his colleagues Pawan and Nyati. And I continue to do my research on the region. You know, facts about Gujarat that I think we just don't realise is that it had 220 princely states. Now, when you think that Rajasthan has built its tourist reputation on its palaces and forts and the romance and the majesty, and Rajasthan had 22 princely states, okay? So in comparison, we have 220 in Gujarat. So that gives you a sense of a bit of what is available to explore and discover in the region. In addition to that, it has 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. It has 203 monuments of national importance. There are 4 national parks, but 23 additional wildlife sanctuaries. Okay? It's home to 350 species of birds and up to around 50 species of animal. And on top of all of that, it's renowned and is becoming much more well known of late for its incredible culture and also the textiles. And also, as I mentioned earlier, you know, it's now up and coming as a fantastic adventure destination. So I did visit 10 years ago. I did do a bit of a recce. I've just been back. I had a fantastic trip, which unfortunately was cut short. But it's a region that I can't claim to be an expert on. And so for the majority of this webinar, I'm going to be handing you over to Aditya Roy, who's one of the 3 founding members of SOAR Excursions. And it's a region that they absolutely know inside out and back to front. So I shall hand over and let Aditya take over.
Hi everybody, good morning, good afternoon and good evening. I'm Aditya, I'm from SOAR Excursions and we are based out of Ahmedabad, which is the capital, biggest city of Gujarat. And as Philippa said, Gujarat has got something for everyone. And like from monuments, wildlife, culture, textiles, a lot of different things. So let me start off with some monuments that Gujarat has to offer. Gujarat, as Philippa said, has got a lot of UNESCO World Heritage Sites, some beautiful monuments, and Ahmedabad city is one of the first UNESCO World Heritage Cities of Gujarat and of India also. We have some very beautiful stepwells. This is like the Queen's Stepwell, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is almost like 7 stories underground with beautiful architecture, beautiful carving. And as Gujarat is one of the very dry climates, it is very well known for its water architecture. And we have some very beautiful stepwells all over Gujarat. Gujarat is also known for the Indo-Islamic architecture, where you can see some beautiful jali work, which is a stone carving through and through sandstone carving. And this is a Sidi Sayyid Mosque, which is in center of Ahmedabad city, and it is also one of the very beautiful monuments to see. We have monuments from time of Mahatma Gandhi, and we also have monuments and excavated sites all the way to 3000 BC from the Harappan and Indus Valley civilization. So in terms of monuments, we have something all the way from Indus Valley till the modern history of India, from up to the colonial period. So some very beautiful monuments one can see in Gujarat. And who is interested in architecture, we can do some very specialized tours on architecture also. Of course, wildlife is something which everybody likes, and Gujarat has got some very beautiful wildlife parks and sanctuaries. Gujarat is known for the last remaining population of the Asiatic lions, which is in the Gir forest in southwestern part of Gujarat. But apart from lion, we have some beautiful deserts. We have coastline. Gujarat has the longest coastline in India, which is 1600 kilometers, which has got coral reefs, sandy beaches. We have some beautiful grasslands, and we have little and great run of Kutch. So we have got almost over 50 species of mammals, and some key species includes Asian wild ass, the leopard, striped hyena. If you go to Velavadar National Park, you can see a beautiful grassland which is full of black bugs, and you can see Indian wolf. chasing the black bugs, or sometimes striped hyena snatching food from the wolves. So it looks like a mini Serengeti. We have some beautiful desert fox and Indian gazelle. So in and all, Gujarat is a nice destination for wildlife lovers, wildlife photographers, and Gujarat is also very famous for birds. Next,
Can I
please.
just say, sorry, Aditya, I'm loving looking at this slide right now because
Yes.
in this, like I mentioned at the start of the webinar, I did 4 safaris on my trip at the beginning of March, and we literally saw every species that's on this slide. So it was just phenomenal wildlife. So sorry.
Two of the photographs are from your last trip. The leopard, of course,
Yes,
clicked by Philippa herself, and the striped hyenas that we saw in the
yeah.
Vellaudar National Park.
And the wolf, just
And the
amazing.
wolf also, yes.
Yeah, amazing. Anyway, I shall stop interfering and let you move on to your birds.
So, birding, previous slide, please.
There we go.
Yeah, thanks. So birding is also very important aspect in Gujarat, and Gujarat falls on the Central Asian flyway, which is one of the very important flyways for birds which migrate from Central Asia and European countries towards South and Southeast Asia during winter. So that's why Gujarat has got almost 500 species of birds, out of which almost around 350 species you can easily see during a birding tour, which can be from a week up to 10, 12 days. But it is not just for hardcore birders. Gujarat, because it has a very flat and open landscape, one can see birds at ease. You can have a cup of tea and enjoy your wetland safari and see thousands of flamingos and cranes congregating, or see a beautiful sunset, and you can enjoy your birds. So even if you are not a very hardcore wildlife or a birding person, this exaggerating numbers of birds congregating in different wetlands or deserts can be a very beautiful sight and very enjoyable sight. So as birding destination, Gujarat is good for both amateur or general clients, or hardcore birders who will also like to see some very rare species like the great Indian bustard or grey hypocoleus or crab plovers or Indian schemers. This kind of specific species also one can target and see, along with these huge beautiful congregations of birds. Next, please. So moving on to textiles and crafts. So Gujarat is, one of the arid regions, which is very dry landscape, and that's why the culture and community has adapted to very colorful way of life to compensate the dry landscape, something which you can also see in Rajasthan. So Gujarat has got some nice artisans communities all over, especially in southwest part of Saurashtra and northwest part, which is Kutch region, where they make some very unique textiles and handicrafts. And these artisans, you can visit the artisans, see their crafts, and even do sometimes we also organize workshops with them. Some very unique forms of textiles include the double ikat weaving, that is the patola sari, which one can see in Patan. Each sari takes almost 6 months to 1 year to make. Every warp and weft is first tie-dyed with organic colors and then woven together to make a sari. And that sari costs somewhere around $500 to $1,000 minimum. So it is that level of intricate artwork. And from that you can go to Kutch, where you can see the vegetable and organic dye block printing, different types of weaving, embroidery work done by various nomadic communities like Rabaris and Jats, and also see different varieties of crafts like beadwork, lacquer art, and all those kind of crafts which traditionally these communities used to do and still are doing the traditional way. So it can be a part of a general tour where clients can go to different artisans, see their art and craft and enjoy it. Or it can also be a very concentrated textile and craft tour where people like designers or textile lovers can also enjoy this kind of tour, where we can also have hands-on experiences and workshop based tours. So for textile and craft, Gujarat has got a lot to offer. Next, please. And of course, this textile and crafts belong to different communities which are spread all over Gujarat. We have different tribal groups, we have different nomadic communities. So Gujarat has got some really rich, colorful communities, especially if you go to North Gujarat or South Gujarat, where we have tribal groups like Garasias and Bhils, where you can see this kind of you can see one picture with lot of horses, terracotta horses, and one tree. So that is a worship place for tribals of North Gujarat. They just worship one tree and they will put a terracotta horse if their wish comes true. So there are some places where you can see thousands of such terracotta horses. So it's a beautiful, unique way of looking at tribal culture. You can even visit some of their festivals. If you go to Kutch or Saurashtra region, you can see a lot of nomadic communities traveling with their cattle and their entire homes on camel backs and dressed with very colorful embroidery and beadwork. Or you can go to the little run of Kutch where you can see one of the harshest landscapes in which people are making salt. So salt farmers, it is also a unique uh, community to visit. So on an average, Gujarat has got some beautiful communities and some interesting cultural rituals which one can visit during the trip. Next, please. So, as I talked about the culture, we have some really interesting festivals, tribal festivals and traditional festivals, which are still done in a very raw manner. They still have not got, very modernized, and you can see very beautifully, dressed people coming in their traditional dresses to all these festivals. Like this picture shows a festival in South Gujarat, central South Gujarat, of Rathwa communities. That is the fair of Kavant, where it's a fair where tribal women dressed in beautiful ornaments, silver ornaments. They come to these markets, and it's a beautiful, it's a very interesting phenomena where if you love someone, if the girl loves some boy, she can run away with that boy, and the family will make that marriage official after a week. So this kind of really interesting festivals. You can see one picture on top left where you can see some transgender people dancing or stay, in a group. That is a temple in Bechraji where on a particular full moon night, the transgender community from almost all over the world, they gather and they dance for the whole night. Or you can see a picture with kites, which is the kite festival, which is celebrated for 2 consecutive days, and almost everybody is on their terraces flying kites and cutting each other's kites. So we have some really interesting and beautiful festivals. Most of these festivals are based on lunar calendar, so you need to plan a little bit in advance if you want to visit a particular festival. But most of the time, if you're traveling and if there are some festivals going on, it will be a very good addition to your ongoing itinerary to take the clients to visit these festivals, and it will be a very nice add-on. Next, please. So festivals, culture, tribal communities, or wildlife, that is all, uh, there in Gujarat. But it also offers a lot for young, adventurous, and adrenaline full of people. So we have two big deserts, the Little Run of Kutch and the Great Run of Kutch. We have a 1600 kilometers long coastline, and for that we have some very nice adventure activities. You can do a very nice Royal Enfield motorcycle tour all across Gujarat and drive through the Great or Little Run of Kutch in your own 4x4 SUVs and do cross desert safaris, or camp in the middle of nowhere in the Little Run or Great Run of Kutch. Or you can also do some angling or trekking or those kind of activities. One very special thing that we can do in Gujarat is horseback riding tours. Um, it can be done as a day tour, day excursions from some places like Little Run of Kutch or North Gujarat, where we have some beautiful indigenous Kathiawadi and Marwadi breed horses in some of the hotels. Uh, and you can do a horseback riding, go through the villages, tribal areas, hills, or wetlands and seabirds. Or you can also plan, if you are a very avid and professional rider, you can also plan a tour for 4, 5, 6 nights just doing a horse riding tour. So Gujarat has got some tremendous potential in terms of adventure lovers also.
I can't wait to get back there and go on horse safari and jeep safari.
Yeah.
That's my dream for when all this is over.
Yep. Now even some places like Run Riders, we have started a shooting range. So there are some other things, some very nice sports activities also one can include. And experiential travel is something which now a lot of people are looking forward to. It's not just going and sightseeing or visiting the communities and their craft, but also engaging with the people, seeing their lifestyle in more depth. And especially this attracts a lot of students, or who are into research or some kind of study, where they can stay with this community, they can experience their lifestyle in first-hand experience, um, and understand about their lifestyle problems or some kind of traditional art forms that they have. And this has been a very successful program we have been doing with some schools and universities, where they come and stay for 7 days or almost up to 15, 20 days in some programs, and engage with these communities. Like you go to a salt pan family, stay with them, learn how they are making salt, see the hardships. Or you go to a transgender community and see about their problems, or how the Indian society has incorporated them in the mainstream culture. So there are different cultural anthropological aspects which one can understand by staying with these communities. And that's a bit of more experience and in-depth education related program that we can also do in Gujarat. Next please. So ideally, Gujarat is a destination which one can do from 7 to 15 days. And basically, Ahmedabad is the central most city. It is the biggest city. It has got international airport which connects very well with countries in UK. I mean, places like UK, Middle East, USA, and most of the international carriers come to Ahmedabad. It is also very well connected to various domestic airports like Delhi, Bombay, Chennai, Bangalore, Kolkata. And also by road, one can travel from Rajasthan. If somebody is like coming to Jaipur or Udaipur, they can drive down to Ahmedabad via Palanpur and start their tour from Ahmedabad, and then go towards Little Run of Kutch, that is Dasara, then Great Run of Kutch, that is Bhuj, and then from there they can come southwards towards Gondal and Gir National Park, and go to Blackbuck National Park, and then Baroda and Jambu Ghoda, which is another beautiful tribal area, and come back to Ahmedabad. So this is like a in general tour which will cover some sort of wildlife, culture, adventure, and a mix of everything. But based on the requirement of the clients and time frame, we can also tailor it to a very specific itineraries. We can also design some programs which are just for a weekend. Suppose somebody is coming to Bombay or Udaipur and just want to do 2 days weekend in Ahmedabad, that kind of things can also be planned, and some very in-depth itineraries can also be planned. Next please. So, for example, just these two specialized tours I'm talking, it is the same itinerary which I showed in the last slide, but a little bit of modification, and it can be converted to a very specialized tour. Like textile tour will start from Ahmedabad, you go to Gandhinagar and meet the block makers. Then you go to Patan and see the patola weaving and mushroom weaving, and go to Little Run of Kutch and see Tangalia work, and then go to Bhuj and explore a whole different, variety of artisans, from block printers to tie-dye people, and different forms of embroidery. And then come down to Saila, and again there are some different artisans there. So this can be another 10 to 12 days itinerary. Similarly, if you want a birding program where client is a hardcore birder, then we can do Ahmedabad, Little Run, Great Run, Jamnagar, which is a beautiful coastal part with lot of coastal waders and other birds, and then come to Blackbuck National Park and south some parts of Gulf of Cambay and back to Ahmedabad. So this way we can have some very specialized itineraries also in Gujarat. Next, please.
Sorry, it's been a little slow. Bear with me. Oh, there we go.
So apart from all this, we can do some very specific tours like workshop-based tours, which I touched briefly in the textile section, where people can come and learn different arts with staying with the artisans, or some very special interest tours like African diaspora, for example. We have got some communities which migrated from Africa long back, and they are known as the CD community, which are scattered in different parts of Gujarat. So we had some scholars who were studying about African diaspora who come and interact or stay with this community and study about their culture and life. Similarly, we have some groups of geologists who wanted to see different fossils or geological exploration tour. Or Gandhi is very famous. He was born in Gujarat, and the entire movement of freedom started from Gujarat. So we have a whole circuit where one can understand about the life of Gandhi and how he started, this entire freedom movement. So this kind of very pinpointed interest tours can also be conducted in Gujarat, and tours with academic components, like I explained in the experiential section, can also be done in Gujarat. And the last, pet-friendly tours, we have some beautiful lodges where we have a lot of pets and where we are allowed to get pets. So people who want to travel with the pets can also do a special tour. Um, I think Philippa would agree to that more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
okay. Aditya, thank you so much for that. And Aditya's absolutely right. At Run Riders, which is his hotel, they have a fabulous collection of Labradors and Mawari horses, and I decided that I would love to volunteer for the position of Director of Pet Entertainment. But that brings us nicely on to accommodation in Gujarat, and I think this is something else that does concern people slightly. Part of me loves the charm of the old Gujarats. I mean, a few of us have been around for quite a long time and can remember traveling through Rajasthan sort of 25, 20 years ago, when the palaces were just beginning to open up, and it was a little bit sort of faded, a little bit jaded, but quirky and characterful and fun. And I think Gujarat has a whole host of palaces that are just like that. It takes you back to the India of old, and it really is quite charming. But over and above that, the accommodation in certain areas is really starting to come on in leaps and bounds. So whether it's Run Riders in the Little Run, for example, where they have shooting range and swimming pools and fabulous Mawari and Kathiawari horses for horse riding, and great accommodation. I recently stayed at the Blackbuck Lodge, for example, in Belvedere National Park, which can rival any of the wildlife lodges anywhere else in India. It really was superb. Woods at Sasan, I think, for sort of look far beyond the fact that it's in gear and it's just for wildlife. They have a wonderful spa there and great concepts and brilliant excursions that they've incorporated. And those are just 3 properties that I managed to see on a very short trip this time around. I know in Ahmedabad there's some great hotels coming up as well. So I think, sometimes in some destinations, people might have to compromise slightly for the sake of seeing something fantastic. But, Travel About India has always been a bit about that. But in other areas, the accommodation has really come on in leaps and bounds. And again, work with some of the Explore excursions who know the properties, who know the region inside out, and who can gauge and, you know, recommend the best hotels for your clients and match it to what they're looking for. So that brings us to the end. As this is a post recording, we can't do live questions, but here are our contact details. We are Indian Experiences. We do offer consultancy services to the travel trade. And there's also my email there if you have any questions on this particular webinar. And if you didn't catch Aditya's contact details as well, please just email me and I'd be happy to pass those on to you. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for listening to this webinar, and we will be back with more a little bit later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aditya.
Thank you so much.